Greetings to everyone from wherever you're watching us from. My name is Julie Acheno Ogola. I'm an advocate of the High Court Law LLP Advocates based here in Kenya. Now we're going to be having an interesting discussion today about practicing in multi-generational spaces and what young advocates can actually be able to benefit from this discussion and know how to be able to tune themselves for the current spaces in which they find themselves in. So we are going to be starting in 2 minutes. We are waiting for more people to be able to join in. And I hope this session will be fruitful and all of us will be able to benefit from the same. Thank you. Welcome once again. So we are going to begin our session. And as I've said, we are talking about how to thrive in the ever-changing legal practice and how to be able to also thrive in the multi-generational spaces. So I'm going to introduce our speakers for today, and they're also going to tell us more about themselves when they'll be beginning their sessions. So our first speaker is Faisal Mulalira Omar, who's the Assistant Director, Law Development Center, Lira Campus. Thank you so much, Faisal, for making time. We also have Sian Rapey, who's the Head of Strategy at Sierra Law Global. Thank you so much, Sian, for making time to be with us today. And also we have Angelista Nation, who's the partner of AfriCorp Attorneys. Thank you, Angelista. We are glad to have you all on board today. And as I have just said in the earlier introduction, that this webinar has been organized by the Young Lawyers Committee of the East African Law Society, and it's mainly to be able to discuss about how young lawyers in East Africa who find themselves in multi-generational spaces can thrive, and also how they can be able to benefit from the current changing practice times. So I'd like to invite our first speaker to be able to share with us his nuggets of wisdom, and then the rest will follow. Thank you. So Faisal, you're much welcome.
Thank you so much, the moderator. Good afternoon, East Africa. Good afternoon, Africa at large, and good afternoon, the world. It's a pleasure to join the host of Young Lawyers striving to better themselves this afternoon for a mentorship session. I must say that I'm delighted by your kind introduction. My name is Faisal Mulalira Umar. I serve as the Assistant Director at the Law Development Center, particularly Leader Campus. The Law Development Center, by way of a background, it's the national back course training institution for Uganda, where I serve as the Assistant Director. Moderator, you've set the ball so well when you said that our theme is thriving in multi-generational practice space. I don't know whether you have any specific question or any specific layout you would want me to tackle, or you would want me to discuss it generally.
Maybe you can.
But maybe by way of... Yes, ma'am.
My apologies. You can discuss it generally, then we'll go to the questions after the presentations. Thank you.
Okay. With the advent of colonialists and the admission of the African colonial states under the Berlin Conference, the formation of the state started in Africa. These reciprocal clauses came with reciprocal application of the laws as had been applied in the colonial master states. East Africa in particular adopted the British colonial system. The advent of the British colonial system saw the introduction of the formal court system and the formal legal system, as opposed to our then native court systems that included appearing before the parish chiefs and such other hereditary arrangements within our either monarchical systems or chiefdoms. Now, when these came into play, legal training had to come with it, because eventually when the colonials would leave Africa, then there would be need for people that would succeed the colonial administration in the various sectors. My interest this afternoon is to talk about the legal industry. The legal industry merged first with reception of Indians who had either previously trained in the United Kingdom or in whatever country that the colonialists had come from. And you all remember that India got the first status of general application. So they were tested in India and transplanted in Africa. As the Indians came in and took over the various sectors, particularly in the legal industry, including being judicial officers, advocates, stroke attorneys, prosecutors in both the appellate courts and in the lower courts. Then Africans took on the road to start studying law. The first East African faculty of law was founded in Tanzania at the University of Dar es Salaam. Eventually, as the secession came through under the East African community, several East African states started forming their national faculties of law. In Uganda, the faculty of law started at Makerere University, while the Bacchus Training Institute started at the Lord Development Center as the oldest Bacchus Training Institute in Africa, and particularly in East Africa, I beg your pardon. It was originally called Nsamizi Institute in Entebbe, but the distance between Entebbe, then the colonial capital, and Mengo, which was the commercial capital, made it difficult for the advocates to move from Kampala to Entebbe. Therefore, it shifted its base to Makerere through a compulsory land acquisition. So was the Kenyan School of Law, and in 2010, I'm sure that the Tanzanian School of Law started. I had an opportunity to visit the Tanzanian School of Law in 2016 when I was still part of the Young Lawyers, and we had our conference at the periphery of the East African ELS main conference. We sat at the Tanzanian School of Law. The evolution of the practice of law has therefore had a changing terrain from what you would consider as the traditional practice skills that were taught in the inns of courts and in the old barrister approach to solicitors, to advocates being accredited and found eligible to practice law in the various partner states within the East African community. To this end, we now have various solicitor authorities by whichever name called within the East African community. The admission of other non-traditional member states to the East African community, including Francophone countries like Rwanda and Burundi, and recently the DRC and South Sudan, has not only broadened and globalized the East African community, but also brought in new practice areas and also influenced the way we practice law. Therefore, as a young lawyer of whichever years, whichever name code within the East African community, you must position yourself to practice in a multi-generational practice space, but also be alive to the global changing trends influenced by globalization, constant application and deployment of artificial intelligence in the practice skills, and also the push for social inclusion to ensure that you attain the 3 E's in your practice. The 3 E's that are talked about are efficiency, effectiveness, and economy. I must hasten to add that collaboration has become a key area in practice, where we are seeing collaboration between, previously there was cross-border practice, which is also emerging, particularly in areas of insolvency, corporate finance, PPPs, public project finance, private-public partnership, and project financing. But we are also seeing an increasing stellar performance in the construction and assembling of the East African community into a one global nation. Therefore, this means that we have to place a lot of reliance on ICT as a driver for innovation and also practice. The invention in machine language and the algorithms of artificial intelligence are going to have a very big bearing on the practice that the young lawyers must position themselves to embrace. Also, the ordinary teaching of the basic law might differ a little bit from what the market forces demand of you and the skills required of you as a lawyer within the East African community. Risk is also changing. Previously, the risk has been between the lawyer and the client, but now we are seeing risk spreading all over businesses, the needs for consistency in advising the clients, and the need to have knowledge beyond the classroom to be able to meet the client expectation. As we are aware, clients now are looking for value for money. Many of them are educated, they have the skills. There's nothing new you're going to tell them, but you must justify that hefty bill you want to give the client. Recycled legal advice is a tale of the past. If you must remain relevant, you need not to recycle advice. These are imprisonment on templates and precedents. Every time Xeroxing precedents and templates that you want to present to the new client that has walked in might not work for you as a young lawyer practicing in a multi-generational space. Then also the liberalization, particularly with the commoditization of legal advice. The clients are no longer interested in what is in your knowledge. They are interested in its applicability to the unique circumstances or the uniqueness of their facts that they tell you, for you to be able to make a tailor-made solution. Therefore, non-lawyers are finding this as an entry point into our practice space, where they are applying proven business skills to take over our practice. So as lawyers within the East African community, we must jealously regard the space, but also remain relevant and true to the purpose for which we are lawyers. Technology and consistency in what we do, it will be fundamental drivers of change in the area where we are going to practice. And this needs to change the dynamics of the business that we are doing, from being only trained in the law, but having a 360-degree coverage about the environment in which we operate in, being alive to the political and the politics that is around what we are doing. One of the leading authors, Richard Ellickson, has stated that the future of legal services is not in the wigs and in the wood, well-paneled bit courtrooms or chambers, but the ethereal bounds within which the lawyers and the clients have found themselves. We must have consultative professional service advisors to our clients, who first understand the client's unique need and not sticklers per se to the legalese, but to the legality of what the client needs. Madam Moderator, I would want to give an insight into what I think the legal practice would be like in the next 3 years, where the lawyers are coming through. As lawyers within the East African community, we must take note of the moving globalization trend, where Africa is becoming the next hub of innovation and investment, either through local direct investment or through foreign direct investment. That means we must be trained in investment in infrastructure projects, particularly PPPs, public-private partnerships. And the private sector is now complementing government in infrastructure development, like constructing roads, bridges, ports. The oil industry has started in Uganda and in East Africa. I know that oil exploration is moving. We are moving away from artisan mining into sophisticated mining and extraction of these natural resources. Therefore, matters to do with protection of flora and fauna, land acquisition, infrastructure advice is what the young lawyer should focus on, as opposed to mastering the torts. Your forefathers have understood the law and torts very well. So for you, you should move into investment, money markets, understanding the stock exchange markets and how they operate, and also the evolution of new digital currencies and platforms. As East Africa is moving towards embracing a common currency, we are also looking at the evolution of all these digital monies, crypto coins, bitcoins, and all these currencies. We must train on them. Then we must also focus on regional integration. This will not only widen market for our legal services, but also make us credible and allow us to be participants in the development and evolution of Africa. As you are aware, Africa and many countries within Africa have either given concessions or have already signed the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. This is creating new opportunities for lawyers and law firms to provide cross-border legal services. I know that in the East African community, we have the East African Common Market Protocol, and we also have a bill that has been lying for so long before the East African Legislative Assembly, EALA, on cross-border practice. It is a bill of 2012. But I know that previously I have been privileged to serve as a member of the Council of the Uganda Law Society representing Central Region. And we debated and approved the MRAs, Mutual Recognition Agreements. So as members within the East African community, as we broaden the market, as we open the borders to allow cross-border trade in goods and services, legal services will not be left behind. So we must prepare to be part of that evolution. As regional economic integration grows, there will be an increasing need for legal advice, and you must be able to advise on the current position, not only in your home country, but also in the other East African partner state or Africa at large. Then also the increase in foreign direct investment, which has made Africa the next hub in investment. As you see all these international banks, the Exim Bank, name them, they are finding foot in Uganda, registration under foreign direct investments, registration of foreign companies, innovations, intellectual property. It is anticipated that the ARIPO will be registering close to 600 patents a year in Uganda, and as our pharmaceutical industry is boosted from traditional herbal medicines into human consumable medicines as approved by the World Health Organizations. So as a young lawyer, besides reading the law, how are you preparing to tap into these opportunities? How are you positioning yourself to master the art of drafting patents agreements or patents application? Are you able to oppose the patent application? Have you seen these self-help small courses run by ARIPO? Have you applied for them? Besides a law degree, which is the basic degree that can take even to be a judge in the ICC, what value addition are you doing to yourself to position yourself for that next opportunity that is soon knocking your way or the door next to your home office as a member or as a citizen of the East African community? Regulatory changes are also likely to arise in terms of legal training, accreditation, and practice, where we are all embracing the East African community. Lastly, I want to speak to social inclusion and improved decision making as one of the things that would drive efficiency and efficacy in your practice as you focus on cost reduction and building bridges through regional chambers. The one-man chamber might not work, but we might go on to like NHAS, East Africa, DP Piper, such firms that are trying to create bridges. The other threat that we are likely to be confronted with is data privacy and security risks. So as we embrace artificial intelligence that I've already talked about, we must be able to look at the General Agreement on Data Protection and Privacy and the municipal laws governing data protection and privacy. We are also going to have a lack of transparency. Through this, we must build transparency and be ethically viable to be able to attract synergies and resounding partnerships. As young lawyers, you must raise up to the occasion to become effective and be dependable, be available and faithful, and also being teachable. This tendency of thinking that because you have a low degree, you've hit a jackpot and you start not being tameable. Let's be available and we tame our egos and go down to the table to practice. You will build ethical consideration and will become a run-to person if people can voucher for you in your absence and your name can be debated in all these decision-making platforms even when you're not there. Alternative dispute resolution, ADR, mediation, arbitration are going to become familiar ways of resolving disputes because people are tired of the delays in courts and the turning of the wheels of justice in the formal court system are taking a little longer. Lastly, cross-border transactions and diversity, equity, and social inclusion are going to become key as people are flocking into Africa to tap into the investment opportunities. Let's be tolerant to each other. Let's emphasize Ubuntu and humanity and raise up against the pettiness of our tribes and individual small settings within the East African community to focus on the broader perspective of helping our communities to come out of abject poverty to middle income status and eventually to all the other stages of development as envisioned by Adam Smith. Renewable energy, e-commerce, data protection, and environmental concerns. As you're all aware, we are now implementing the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, and one of the drivers is global warming and the green economies. So as lawyers, you must position yourselves to understand the principle of green economy and how do green economies operate. We must understand the relevance of dispute resolution, particularly involving flora and fauna, and the oil pipelines that are being constructed across the East African community not only present opportunities, but they also pose challenges to which lawyers we shall be required to solve those disputes. That is the glimpse of how I look at an insight into the upcoming, how the legal practice scale is going to look like in the next 5 years, and how young lawyers you should position yourselves to tap into these opportunities and not only become spectators, but active participants for change and drivers of all these innovations that are coming your way. Thank you so much. Back to you, moderator.
Thank you so much, Faisal. Yes, thank you so much. That was quite some of the things that you have just talked about. You have really educated us on the history of practice. Thank you. And I believe now we are all well versed with that. And thank you for also talking about the issue of regional integration when we are looking at cross-border practice. You've also told us as young lawyers that we cannot practice the law the same way our forefathers practiced. If they know the law untaught, then for us, we should focus on investments. And you've also given us some of the areas that we should look out on, for example, the foreign direct investments, the private-public partnerships, we have data privacy and security, and above all, you've told us to be teachable and to be tameable. Thank you so much, Faisal. We appreciate. And now we can move to the next presenter, is your Angelisa.
Hi, for some reason, I think either it's me or my network is a bit challenging, but I will try to see what I can do. I'm not so sure if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. As introduced, my name is Angelista Nation. I'm a managing partner at Africorp Attorneys. It's a law firm based in Dar es Salaam. I would like to first thank, I think Faisal has given a brilliant background on what the topic is, and he's spoken so much about how we can thrive really. And because he has covered so much, I think perhaps I will go straight to some of the areas that I think are still, jobs for lawyers, if you like, even though we've sort of like transitioned from what I would call it the traditional way of practicing law. And now because of the technology, because of the changes in the legal sector, changes in how we practice law, a lot has happened. And because of that, then in my view, if young lawyers take advantage of that, there are really so much and many new jobs that they can actually, tap into. And so I will probably start by encouraging them that there's just still so much you can do as a lawyer, regardless of wherever you are, because with the technology, with all these new areas of law, also comes new jobs which you can actually take advantage of. So perhaps some of the things that I think Senai left out, and then perhaps I should mention, so that we don't repeat so much. I think young lawyers should also take advantage of new areas of law that have actually taken traction. For example, we also still have like the growing sports law area, which I think so many lawyers traditionally didn't really invest so much in. And in East Africa, even it's growing a huge traction, and we still do not have many, experts, so to speak, in this area. And so this is another area that I think young lawyers should sort of like tap into and, grow their practice in that area and sort of like, create a niche for themselves. But not only that, I think we also have the area of entertainment. It's also another area that I think traditionally, as Faisal was saying, it wasn't an area where our forefathers really tapped into, perhaps because of how the environment was set up in legal practice. Yeah, we're talking about times where even movement will be an issue. Even getting or accessing information, not only globally or Africa, even East Africa was an issue, because then we didn't have things like, strong internet. We didn't have like facilities that would actually, help us, get access to information, get access to, entertainers in the world. And now that has changed. With just a click of a button, you can actually, be able to know what everything, the area of entertainment. We now have access to whatever that is happening actually in the world, you can actually access it live. And so that actually gives you an opportunity as a lawyer or young lawyer, so to speak, to actually, you know, converse yourself in the area and be able to practice or advise from wherever that you are. So I think that is also another area that young lawyers should sort of like, you know, start, you know, developing interest in, train themselves in the area so as to sort of like tap into the market when the time comes. There's also an area that I think perhaps should add, the area of medical law and ethics. We've, you know, just like Faisal was saying, back then you just look at it from the tort perspective. But now we are in an era where even the torts that would come out of those areas of law are different from what we have now. Because of the access to information, for example, now we have pandemics every now and then, the pandemic is still running. And because of access to information, you realize there comes legal problems among people. And because of that, then young lawyers can actually start, you know, conversing themselves in the area and sort of like be able to be best advisors, so to speak. So you don't just read the law from the legal perspective, but you also have to like start, you know, sort of like, I would say, you know, 360 degrees, like what Faisal was saying. Not just train on the law, I mean, try to sort of like dig further in the issues that are coming up on a daily basis, but seasonal as well. And then you'll be able to advise. So with that, I think it will give you an opportunity to not only be unique, but to be service-oriented. The areas of blockchain, I think Faisal has mentioned a lot about that, but I think also I should mention a little bit more on ADR. Traditionally, and because of the setup of the legal system, the way it was more of litigation match. But now, because of how the world is moving, how people are doing business, how efficient they want to do their things, litigation is becoming very less attractive to business people or individuals as well. And because of that, people are resorting to ways of resolving disputes that is going to be, one, efficient, fast, but also sort of like give them what they want at the time where they need it. So the time where you would invest your time and training in litigation, where you know cases will run for years, is no longer attractive to you know, businessmen and women, and therefore you should resort to ways in which are more attractive. And I would say for now, ADR is really, really picking up so fast, and young lawyers, as opposed to like before, young lawyers have the advantage of actually, you know, taking that as a niche. Because let's face it, if you look back, even when you look at the senior lawyers that we have perhaps across East Africa, their areas of dispute resolution was more on the litigation part. So that actually gives you a niche as a young lawyer to sort of like tap from where they have not tapped. Now, the good thing about it is, even if they try to tap into that area, they won't be as fast to catch it as you would, because now the resources are many, and as young lawyers, because you are tech savvy and all, you're able to access them from wherever that you are. And you actually be able, you know, you are able to actually be an expert in the area within a very short time. So perhaps because the other areas Faisal has already mentioned, I'll probably go a little bit further then, and you know, try to explain a bit what is the future for law firms then. As I explained, I am on the legal law firm part of things, and so perhaps one may wonder, because of all this that is happening, then is there a place for law firms? I would say there is. Actually, there's a lot to be desired insofar as these technologies are concerned. We still have, at least in my view, even with the AI, the human aspect and the human element is still so valid and vivid. And I think people shouldn't really, or young lawyers shouldn't really be either scared or sort of like worry, because I think with AI, everybody when they're thinking about the future of law firms, is more centered around these stuff these equipments and all that are going to take our market. No, I still believe there's like a human element aspect that is going to be there for a very long time. And young lawyers can still tap into that. I mean, what they should do then is probably use these facilities or access to these technologies to actually help themselves to be more efficient. And there's not so many, I wouldn't say there is, but I would say there is, that young lawyers have the advantage of taking a good use of these facilities to become more accessible, to become more efficient in their work, and therefore deliver easily and efficiently. And because of that, I am sure that business people out there will find them more attractive as compared to like the traditional way of finding lawyers and stuff. I also still feel like young lawyers have the opportunity to use this, there's so many softwares because of the technology that is available. So because of that, then I believe that the future of law firms is still there, but what they should then invest in is making sure that technology works for them, making sure that technology sets them apart from the traditional way of practicing law. We are talking about an era where, other than our forefathers who would buy a book, for example, by actually having it shipped for 3 months, you can actually buy it today and get it today and read and research and actually be able to deliver. We're talking about a world where you have templates online, you just have to click and perhaps customize it to your client's need. All you need to do is actually pick those skills that actually helps you tailor make the document to suit your client. And that is where the human element is then. We have not gotten to a point where these these technologies can actually take away the qualifications or the human elements that we have as lawyers, and in this regard, young lawyers. So I'll still encourage young lawyers to really make use of that, other than being very skeptical and perhaps being very, very, very scared. And so then I think as we'll keep moving, and I'll probably conclude because a lot has been said, so that I leave rooms for other presenters and questions and Q&A. What then should we say is our place? I would say maybe as a way of conclusion, what we need to focus on, or what young lawyers should focus on, they should make sure that in as much as they're using these new ways and new technologies in practicing, keeping the human element is one, but also reserving the standards and ethics that are required for lawyers should be there. It's not going to take away the fact that we are going to be held accountable in some way or the other, in as much as we are working from the back end of things. So I would say that probably would be mine. I think the rest that I'll probably be speaking later will come, I'll probably contribute in the Q&A when the time comes. Thank you, and back to you, moderator.
Thank you so much, Ms. Angelista. We appreciate you. And just to highlight some of the key things that you've been able to talk about, we've talked about entertainment law. Also, I have loved that the growing space will not take away our qualifications. So it's for us to see how to be able to still put the human element in practice, and also to preserve the standard and ethics required of us in practice. Thank you so much, Ms. Angelista. So now we're going to welcome our third and last presenter, Ms. Sian Rapey from Sierra Global. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Atieno, and thanks to everybody that made the time to come to this webinar. A lot has been said by my colleagues about all the new practice areas and the new opportunities for young lawyers. So for me, I'm going to highlight more on the packaging of the young lawyers so that they're able to compete out here with, law is one of those professions where lawyers do not retire. So by the time you come into the profession in your early 20s, you're competing against a person who has probably practiced for 40, 50 years, who's maybe 70 and who's not going to retire until the day they die. And then when you look at your clients, you have all kinds of multi-generational clients. You have the very old money person who wants you to be able to probably estate plan for them. You have the middle-ish people who are trying to invest. They're trying to go out of their way to do new things. And then also you have the very young clients who are probably influencers or maybe into film or making some content. So you need to be able to serve all those people in a way that speaks to them, in a way that serves them, and in a way that solves their problems. So as a young lawyer in this market, the first thing you need to do is you need to have great awareness. And just as has been mentioned by the previous speaker, you need to understand the cultures, the ethics, the expectations that have been in your area, in your country, and in your region for the longest time. Because ultimately, these standards and these ethics will still apply to you. So as a young lawyer, I might want to be in shorts and red hair in my office every day, and that is what resonates with me. But people who have been in this profession, people who are coming into this profession to have their problems solved, what are they expecting? Will they feel comfortable with me in my yellow and orange hair? Second, you need to learn how to protect your image. I think with social media and maybe all of us living in a very liberalized world, people have started to be a little bit careless with their image. So especially in the area of social media, where it's very hard to balance between your professional image and your personal image, what you put out there, what ideas you stand for. It's very, very, very important to keep in mind that ultimately how you're viewed, your image is going to reflect on your professionalism. You do not want people to know you as the drunken advocate, the one who is always posting videos screaming in clubs. So it's okay to party in your own time, but where that is going to be out here, where your clients and your professional colleagues are going to interact that content, it would be important to keep it away. Third, competence. We cannot insist on competence enough. I think for our generation of lawyers, we have the highest competition. There's the highest number of lawyers. For example, in Kenya right now, I think we have admitted more than 23,000 lawyers, yet just 10 years ago, we had less than 10,000 lawyers. So that tells you competition is stiff. So aside from image, aside from all other things, you must know your stuff. We cannot overemphasize on competence. So make sure you sharpen your art, and then let there be a few things that you're very good at. So as young lawyers, it would not be very wise to over-specialize at the beginning of your career, because you need your mind to take in as much as possible. And you need to be able to survive in case, for example, you're a conveyancer and today banks decide that they no longer want lawyers to draft their documents. Where will you go? So at the beginning of your career as a lawyer, you need to do as many things and be conversant in as many areas of law as possible. But as you do that, pick one or few things that you're going to perfect, and then be an expert at those things. After being an expert at those things, it's not enough if the knowledge is in your head. You have to put yourself out there. You have to put yourself out there in the form of articles, in the form of blogs, in whatever opportunity you get to put your knowledge out there, do it. Because it's not going to market you, and it's not going to propel you in your career if you're going to know all these things and be an expert at all these things, but nobody else knows except that client that you served and that person that sits next to you at the office, or probably your boss or your colleague. So you have to find a way of putting yourself out there. Then bring some youthful energy. I've seen actually clients that insist on having young teams. And the reason is that they want to leverage off the youthful energy. So sometimes, especially in a very judgmental practice, where people keep saying, "Oh, young lawyers this, young lawyers that, a young lawyer has done this again," it might be tempting to want to hide yourself and under the cocoon and just act like these old ones because that's how it is. But no, don't be tempted to do that. Bring some youthful energy to your work, even to how you speak, how you present, and then take advantage of the boosters of our time. So lawyers who started practicing maybe 20, 30 years ago, they didn't have some of the advantages that we have. We are practicing currently in a more globalized world where you're no longer tied to the client that would have come to your town or to your country. A random client from Zambia may want to contact you because of an article that you wrote, or a client from Brazil, or a client from India. The world is more globalized now. We have more tools that aid in our research, that help us to be more efficient, to work faster. We have computers, we have internet. Like my colleague already said, today you can order a book and have it by the end of the evening. So make sure you take advantage of those career boosters of our time that people who practice in another age did not have. Then never forget the extra. One of the lessons that I learned very early in my career is that legal services are just like any other. So if you can go to a restaurant where you buy tea for 10 shillings, and somebody else goes to a restaurant where they buy tea for 200, and another one goes to a restaurant where they buy tea for 2,000 bob, it's not the tea that is making them spend, it's the other things. So you have to understand what is the extra in my industry. So the person that sells tea for 10 bob probably has a very cheap cup, a place that has no ambience, very bad seats. So really, you're paying 10 shillings for the cup of tea, but there's nothing else. The person who sells it for 200 has probably improved. They're probably serving it in a better cup, you're sitting in a better chair. So the difference is not the tea. So the one who sells it at 2,000 bob probably has a waiter who is smiling all the time, very well dressed, extremely good utensils, very wonderful cutlery, and maybe somebody else is playing piano as you're having a 2,000 bob tea. All these three people have sold tea. It's the same thing for legal services. And for legal services, it's the very minute, small things that change the client experience. Something as small as constantly updating your client. Do not wait for clients to call you and say, "What happened to that matter? What happened to that transaction?" Constantly keep your clients updated so that as soon as they think, should I call that lawyer and find out what happened in court today? There's already an email in their inbox, there's already a text on their phone. It's as little as thanking your clients every time they give you instructions. It's as little as being extremely courteous. Anybody in this profession knows that we deal with people, and human beings are generally difficult. They can be difficult. So in our career, once in a while, you will find clients who are not very happy with how we work or how we deliver, but it is up to us to be overly courteous all the time. Something as little as walking your clients to the lift every time they come to your office. Never lose sight of the extra. Then be on the lookout for new areas of law. New areas of law are always coming up, just like the first speaker and the second speaker said. New areas of law are always coming up. So you have to constantly be aware of them. But ultimately, I would advise any young lawyer, do not jump on anything just because it's marketable. I think, and just this is a personal opinion, that one of the most important criteria to choose what you want to practice and what you want to even research in and what you want to be an expert at is your curiosity. Move with your curiosity. So probably cyber law is catching fire, but you don't see yourself as a cyber law expert. Don't go with it, because ultimately It's your curiosity that fuels your passion. It's your passion that fuels your performance. Then it's your performance that fuels your results. So keep an eye on the new areas of law and emerging trends, but ultimately choose where you want to go depending with your interest and with your curiosity. I would also like to say lawyers around the world are known as very good dressers. And I have seen, probably because we are living in a very liberal age, young lawyers, we don't pay so much attention to dressing anymore the way older people in this generation, in this career and in this profession used to pay attention to. We have more casual dressing, especially now in Kenya, for example, now that we have virtual courts, people no longer have to be in suits. Well, it would be fine. It's fine to alter your dressing as, I mean, to maybe probably loosen it a little bit, but ultimately, in this profession, dressing is still very, very important. So whatever style you decide to go with, make sure it's extremely decent and fitting and befitting of the profession. Then, if you do decide to run your own firm, which I have seen a lot of young advocates are choosing to do, which I applaud them for, because it's a wonderful thing. The ambitions are not curtailed by the areas of practice of their employers. So for the young advocates who do decide to go at it and set up a law firm or a consultancy, which is a wonderful thing. Competence, first of all, put yourself out there, be an expert, constantly find a way to market your services. Although marketing in the legal profession is not like other professions. We can't do advertising, we can't have billboards, but there's many other ways that other people market their services. They go to talk shows, they write articles, they go to events. Events are a wonderful way of putting yourself out there. Also, advocates should always have very sound financial management, whether they run their own businesses or not. This will be a very important skill as you grow older. Again, availability, whether you're employed or self-employed, be available. Don't be that advocate that every time clients come to your office, or he went for vacation, or he's working from home today. Try to be available as much as possible to your target market. Then work on your soft skills. Your soft skills will include how you draft, how you write letters, how you speak, how you negotiate, how you express to your clients that you're not very happy with what they say. And then for those that decide to go into private practice, pick your teams very carefully. The team that you pick can make or break you as a young lawyer. So if you decide, for example, so let's say you're in dispute resolution and you want to open a firm and you decided you're going to pick one person with commercial expertise, one person with probably expertise in companies, depending on your target market, that could work. But also, as you pick your team, aside from your competences, also look at your personalities, because you could be believing in very different things. I could be believing in being very courteous to my clients, while my partner believes that shouting at clients is the best way. You see how that is going to ultimately water down our strategy. So when you do decide to get into business, which a lot of young people are doing, be extremely careful with the people that you pick to be part of your team. Make sure you share the same values, what you see from this profession. I could want to excel, to be the best advocate ever, and partner with a person who just wants to make money. They don't care how the money comes. So make sure you have the same values, make sure you have the same level of industry, so that you don't partner with people who are dead weight. And learn the art of delegation. As you grow bigger in the profession, you will understand that you cannot do everything. So especially for young advocates who are setting up, it's very tempting in the beginning to be everything, to be the marketer, to be the drafter, to be the one that meets the clients, to be the one that does pitching. But as you get bigger, you will realize that it is better to do a few things that you're very good at, and you have to learn the art of delegation. And finally, I would say, as an advocate, know your worth. As you sit down to read, to expand your knowledge, to become an expert at these things, to put yourself out there, also build and know your worth. And this knowing your worth will ultimately influence which client you take on, how you price your work, what kind of salary or wages you accept. The more you build yourself, the more valuable you become, and the more you're going to be able to refuse clients and people who do not offer you compensation that is commensurate to your skill. So I would stop it at that. I'm sure there's questions coming later. So basically, for me, that's how to package the advocate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sian. That was very insightful. And maybe just to highlight some of the points that you have talked about. You've talked about packaging yourself as a young lawyer. You've talked about understanding your culture, and that's relating to guarding your image when you putting your content on social media. We've also talked about knowing yourself, and that's identifying your areas of practice. And also something that has really stood out for me is being extra in the legal services that we offer. That is very important, because it's important to be able to offer quality legal services, and as consumers, always look out for those who are offering the top-notch services. Also, you've talked about picking your team, which is very important as young lawyers, as we are forming our firms. We should be able to pick people who we have the same outlook on practice and the same energy. And the last thing that is very important is knowing your worth, because I think as young lawyers, sometimes when we are still growing in the profession, we would tend to price our legal services in a way that does not depict the time and industry we put into the work that is presented to us. So thank you so much, Sian, for those nuggets of wisdom. Thank you, Angelista. Thank you, Faisal. I appreciate your time spending it with the young lawyers today. And maybe I could just start sharing some of the questions so that I can give everyone room to ask whichever question that they would like. So the first one is from Elizabeth Magaduka. And she was asking us to restate the professional courses that that young lawyers can be able to take. And maybe I could throw back that to Faisal. What are some of the other professional courses that young lawyers can be able to take? Faisal, I don't know if you're there.
Thank you so much. I have already, thank you so much for the comments that have come through in the chat room and the question you've put. Elizabeth, we've already talked about, you're already a graduate of law. You need a master's in an area. To me, despite being an LLM, I've learned that much of the skills that I have got that have helped me in my career path are not what I learned in the law school. Things I learned in the social science, in School of Social Sciences, and in the business school. So I joined the business school to study about project planning and management. Then I joined a social science school and management school to study about public administration. So they've shaped me, they've changed my way of thinking, and they've made me to apply the law to the, not per se in the legalistic way, but as a manager, as an administrator, or as an economist. Therefore, I would think reading about economics, reading about project management, PPPs, all these emerging technologies, financial regulation and financial sector management, private sector management, public sector management, policy formulation and implementation would position you as a better person as a lawyer. We've also looked at the emerging law on animal law and protection, the flora and fauna, implementation of the SDGs and the development agendas. You will realize that each economic bloc is now setting a development agenda and goal. The African Union has got a development agenda of 2065. East Africa will have a development agenda of 2045. The various countries are running a vision development goals. In Uganda, we have vision 2040 or 2030. You realize that development and training is moving away from the conventional legal practice skills to other new areas. Sports law is one area we can look at. We've looked at entertainment law as something emerging. I was also here thinking about corporate social responsibility and advising on strategic response and services governments. So how are you positioning yourself in this electronic government? Are you reading about e-government, e-justice, digitalization of the court processes, digitalization of government? In Rwanda, I think it is the leading hub in e-government, and it has already embraced e-justice. We are also looking at renewable energy and green economies, away from the traditional environmental law to now start rethinking of alternative energy sources. So you're going to advise these foreign investors that are coming to do this. The investors already have the old lawyers who will advise them about torts, hiring people and firing. For you, you should be in the boardroom to advise on how decisions are being taken, not as a bypasser, or not standing by, but being an active participant in the decision-making process as we roll out the African Common Market Protocol and all these other borderless practices that are coming through. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Faisal. And maybe just to add, because I'm also a young lawyer who, I'm in my third year in practice here in Kenya, and some of the additional courses that you could take, for example, I have been trained in the African human rights system, and there's also an advanced human rights course on police oversight and vulnerable groups, all this from the University of Pretoria. So if you're a human rights enthusiast or if you like to look for short courses, you can look out for the short courses offered by the University of Pretoria. They are totally free. I did some of them during COVID, so you can check out for that. Also, we've heard about ADR, that is an emerging area of law. I've also been trained as a certified mediator, sorry. Certified mediator. I'm also currently undertaking my training on arbitration. So ADR training is very important for a young lawyer. And there's also an institution called the Lawyers Hub here in Kenya, and they offer trainings on issues to do with digital privacy rights and data compliance. So they also have a training institute, and I've also been trained on legal, what's it called? It's the data compliance and data privacy. So just look out for the short courses in various institutions which are affordable or even which are totally free, and they are marketable. But as Sian has rightly put it, be able to look out for your niche areas so that you can check out, as much as it is marketable, what is favorable to your areas of interest. So maybe I could also take other questions as they come in, but I'd like to throw a question to Ms. Angelista. Maybe you could comment about access to justice and online legal services. How are we finding ourselves being able to deliver justice more to the people around the East African community, and how are online legal services packaged? Thank you. Ms. Angelista?
Well, I think on that aspect really comes other challenges as well, but they do not come without solutions. So in my view, I think insofar as access to justice and online services concerned, then there's just so much that is happening. For example, the online dispute resolution, the ODR. Because of that as well, with online, we are now able to file, say, some court documents online. Because of that, even when you want to file some motions, we have courts now moving into that area where you can sign it from wherever you are, and it can actually be legally acceptable. And so you are not hindered from actually providing or assisting people accessing justice because of that. But we also see like information that actually tells you what your rights are. They're like readily available online, and that is also an advantage to that front. We also now have like judgments really, online, like for us. I'm not so sure about the other East African countries, but I think across all of East African countries, we now have like a platform to get updated judgments as they come or as they are issued. So in that way, not only for lawyers, even for the public, when they want to actually access materials that can help them really, get closer to justice, it's, they're readily available to them. But also courts, we have, a lot of courts now are moving into the e-world, where wherever you are, say you're in Kenya today, you have a matter in Tanzania, for example, in commercial court, you cannot say, I cannot be able to represent myself or represent my client in your case as a lawyer. You are able to do that from wherever you are. So that has made, it easy. And we see also like the laws that are being passed are really going with the trend. They are going with the fact or with an understanding that things have changed, and therefore they respond to the questions that ideally before, when we were doing traditional practice, were hard. For example, things like e-signatures, things like, witness statements, and all that. I mean, we still have a little bit of a hurdle when it comes to presenting evidence, especially in criminal cases and stuff, but still we are moving there. And I believe where now we will get even further with time, because the trend has been, we pass law because we have seen a problem. So as the issues arise and as we get to to familiarize ourselves with the technologies and these trends, we'll even move far ahead. Not only that, like we have seen also sometimes, when you can't, we now see, virtual court proceedings even. So if you have a proceeding, say in Kenya, it's there, but, us in Tanzania or any other place in the world, they're able to see that. They're able to see, oh, I do not have to be physically there to actually access justice. I can access it from wherever that I am. And I think that is also a bonus. I think perhaps what is more wanting is the ethics around it. Because of that, abuse is also possible. But in my view, I think that does not really hinder us or bar us from actually moving into that direction. Compromises may be there here and there, but I think a lot is to be desired insofar as how we package ourselves, and how, as lawyers, especially young lawyers who are using these technologies often, how they actually help the lawmakers in courts, the lawmakers in the parliament, is sort of like pushing them to what actually works best without compromising, the ethics around it, so to speak. I think that should be my take on that.
Okay, thank you so much, Angelista, for your contribution on that. Indeed, access to justice has been improved due to the availability of online legal services like the online filing, the online courts, and we've talked about the online dispute resolution, which has been key to be able to enable more people access justice. Thank you for that. At this point, I'd like to recognize the Vice President of the Uganda Law Society through his comments on the chat. He's saying he's grateful for this conversation, and he encourages young lawyers to use modern tools to compile research so that they can be able to give applicants a remedy as fast as they would like. And also he has acknowledged one of our presenters, Faisal Marira. Thank you. The Vice President, Uganda Law Society, Martin, we thank you. So I'll go to a question by Zakia Kauma, and she asks, or I presume it's a she, the question is saying, how do I, as a young advocate, secure employment in this field that requires connections? Legal training is done very privately, and starting out individually is quite hard. I'll answer that question partially, and I'll also throw it to Sian. And maybe just to give my experience, personally, after I finished my training program, my higher diploma to be trained as an advocate, I have never been employed. I started out first as teaching law. Then is when I now started practice after I'd identified a team, as Ms. Sian has told us. So one thing that I'll tell you, and Ms. Sian actually alluded to in her presentation, you have to put yourself out there, because no one will know you to be good at anything if you do not put yourself out there. So for me, in 2020, I started a YouTube channel. It's called Acheno Gola the Lawyer, and have been educating people on issues to do with the law. And some of the clients that I have gotten are largely because of my social media presence. So you have to put yourself out there. And I also do talk shows sometimes. I try to also do articles, a few here and there. So it's important to be able to put yourself out there, and it will pay out. For example, due to all the work that I've been trying to do, especially in ADR, last year I was awarded the Young ADR Practitioner of the Year at the Nairobi Legal Awards. So one thing I can tell you, put in the work, and soon your names will be mentioned in places that you never thought you would be at. So put yourself out there, have your competence, and also identify your niche areas. You cannot be good in everything. So identify your niche areas, and also attend events, especially where seniors are, because the older generation, you're talking about the multi-generational differences. The older generation is looking out for the young talent in this generation. So if you put yourself out there as the young ADR practitioner, as the young litigator, as the young expert maybe in cybersecurity, then the older generation who have top law firms and are looking for young talent to nurture and even to help their law firm grow will actually pick you out. So sometimes you don't actually need connections. It's your competence, you're putting yourself out there that will actually bring work and recognition to yourself. So thank you for that question, Zaki. And I'll also ask Ms. Sian to weigh in on that question. How in a field that requires connections? Thank you.
Okay, so to answer Zakia, first of all, you do not need connection. Stop believing that you need a person to connect you with another person. No, you are enough. So you have to start from there. Believe that you're enough, that you do not need anybody to recommend you or to talk to their friend at the golf course about you. You're enough. Secondly, refuse for your mind to sleep, whether you are employed or not. Never wake up and you don't have anything legal going on, whether you're researching on an article, whether you're helping a friend to come up with pleadings, whether you're going through a bill of parliament. At any given time, make sure your mind does not go to sleep and you're putting in something legal in your mind every day. And you have to do that through work, something that has output, whether it's submissions, whether it's pleadings. When you can't find secure employment, I'm sure you know a lawyer or two, offer to help them while you look for employment. Third, learn your CV writing and your interviewing skills, and then trust yourself enough to apply as far as possible. When I was in my second year, I remember our first long holiday, and we were going to be very idle. There was nothing to do. It was going to be a 5-month holiday. And some of us sat in campus and said, no, we can't just go home. We need to find a job. So what I remember I did, that time my CV was very little. Right now my CV is pretty wide, but that time my CV was, I think, 3 pages. There was nothing much. The only experience I had had before that was working at a nyamachoma joint. Those who don't speak Swahili, nyamachoma is barbecued meat. So that's all I had done. I had only worked at a nyamachoma joint, but I had a skill or two. So what I did is I looked for 1,000 bob, Kenya shillings. I made 30 CVs, 30 of them, and put them in an envelope. And then I called a friend of mine and told them, you know, I want to work for a law firm that is like this. I don't want a small one. I also don't want a very big one because I don't know much. I just want something in the middle, maybe something with 3 partners, maybe 5 years, 7 years. And they told me, go to a certain housing, a certain building in town. That building has a lot of law firms. And I didn't know any of those people. I simply walked in, hi, how are you? And then, is there a lawyer? Some secretaries lied to me. Some of them asked me to leave my CV, maybe it was torn. But by the end of the day, I had met enough lawyers, I had had enough conversations. And believe you me, at the end of that one day, the next day I had a job. So it's about believing in yourself, knowing what you're looking for, and then be out there. If you apply to 30 employers and 28 don't pick you, so what? You just need one. So you need to trust yourself more. And then, just as Atieno said, keep putting yourself out there, whether it's going to be talk shows, whether it's going to be articles. In fact, articles are a great way for people who do not want to take part in any videography and do not want to have their faces out there, or not too confident to speak. When you write an article, you do it in your privacy. Nobody's looking at you. You do not have to stutter or to remember. So, I mean, I encourage all of us to, as much as possible, put out written work because it's permanent and it's going to speak for you. Thank you, Atieno.
Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Sian. I appreciate that. And something that you've said that has reminded me of my journey when I was looking for internship. Now in Kenya, once you're done with your higher diploma, that's the advocates training program, you're required to do a short internship at a law firm. So I remember I was really struggling to get internship, that's pupillage. And I remember I walked into a building that's almost, I think it was 16 floors. And I went to all the floors dropping my application. And I remember the law firm that took me for intern person who was taken on merit. The rest new people there, and you are like 4 interns, 4 pupils, sorry, who are there. And so actually, as rightly put it, you don't need to know anyone. Just believe in yourself, believe in your skills, and soon they will speak for you. So that's very important. And I hope your question has been satisfactorily answered. So I'm seeing also Mukunden Ronald has put out a question and also a comment. He's saying the presentation is beneficial. Thank you for that. And he's saying, how do you advise us about the incoming cyber advocate generation, which is emerging, robot advocates? I'm not quite sure I've understood the question relating to robot advocates or cyber advocates. Maybe if you're talking about practicing in cyber security or data privacy, I don't know if that's what you are alluding to, but maybe I'll throw back the question to Mr. Faisal. What do you think about that?
Thank you so much for your question. His thing is talking about deployment of artificial intelligence, where robot advocates like machines would take over the role of the lawyers. Of course, yes, we must alive to the fact that innovation is irresistible, and such innovations have already been deployed. I'm aware that law firm bosses are now seeking to deploy more ICT softwares and other machine languages to help them reduce on in-house billing, that the lawyers you're demanding for a lot of money Yet if somebody has a machine, the machine can do what you do and it builds less. However, that should not be a threat. You must position yourself to use these machines. Artificial intelligence refers to use of computer systems that can do what human intelligence can do. But remember, they are not proved to be not confronted with lack of biases. They are not proved to not to have these inaccuracies. Sometimes they lack cognitive communication with the consumer of these cognitive communication with the consumers of legal services. So human interaction cannot be done away with completely. But as you see that we are going there, how are you positioning yourself? Are you this person who only thinks that you can use your phone to go on a banter for social networking, or you're using it to learn about how these artificial intelligences and their deployment is moving and progressing? For me, as a lawyer, you must position yourself that artificial intelligence will not take away our work in terms of liability and trust laws. The medical robots have created difficulty in administration of justice, except in administration of medicine, except for operations, which are also cannot take over sophisticated operations. So position yourself as a go-to person. Become that knowledgeable person in that area that you have the biggest threat in, and then start writing, pushing yourself out there, putting yourself out there to the public. The presenters talked about articles, writing in the journals, writing small pieces, commentaries in your local newspapers. So the threat is real, but the threat will not cover us up. The moment we position ourselves, we know what is needed of us, we learn about these machines and the language they are using, and we also learn to become more efficient, effective. The 3 E's I talked about: economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. For example, Kuruwera leverages on massive database for law firms that enable us to browse the internet. For example, you punch in general damages in Kenya, and it will give you so many cases and write-ups on general damages in Kenya. But when you stand to talk about these general damages, are you the person that will bring a new addition to existing body of knowledge in dissecting the concept of general damages? Also, these machines are quite expensive. They are not going to offer pro bono. So start with offering pro bono. Reach out to the indigent, the less privileged in your community. Offer these legal services. Build them as you build the economic skills in them. By the time they start earning, by customer loyalty or client loyalty, you will be the go-to person. And as they deploy these artificial intelligences, they will be looking at how to integrate you into the deployed technologies, and you will really make an edge, cut an edge for yourself in this, and you will be able to pull through. So the threat is there, but we must embrace it because it is irresistible, and work within a way that enables us to position ourselves to cut an edge in the forthcoming 4th industrial revolution in provision of legal services and e-justice administration. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Faisal, and thank you for that insight on the use of artificial intelligence and also how to be able to still make ourselves relevant. You can keep your questions coming, and I'm seeing some of the comments in the comment section. I'm seeing Victoria saying that she's done a lot of articles, but she has never posted them. Yes, it's important that you start trying to, put yourself out there. And at this time, I'm also seeing one of our speakers, Ms. Angelista, would like to add something. Ms. Angelista, please go ahead.
Thanks. Perhaps mine is for Victoria. She's really asked about, employment, and I think I'll probably shed a light. I think, Victoria, one of the things you should remember is that you're unique in your own way, and that be it article, be it what, there's nobody like you. And it's that uniqueness that you really should start by selling. I'm a very big and huge proponent of the use of these technologies and social medias to actually advance your career and branding yourself. Because we shouldn't forget the fact that law is now business like any other business. And because of that, then you also need, in as much as positioning yourself is there, but you also have to use these branding materials that are available out there. I know it may be daunting to actually put or publish an article out there. Why don't we start, or you start with small paragraphs that actually explain the things that you value? I'll give you an example. I started practicing back in 2014, there and about. And when I started, I think, like you, I didn't have connection. I'm the first lawyer in my clan. I wouldn't even call it family. I was the first of them all. So that means then I didn't know anyone who would actually give me or show me how to be a lawyer. The only thing I knew is that I wanted to practice law. And so my starting was, because I want that so much, I need to train myself. Now there's that law degree and there's that law school that you've done, or a master's if you like, but also there is the practical training part of things. And you would appreciate that in the law school, they don't really teach you much. So I really hugely invested my time in learning how to practice law from people that I knew. So I applied just like anybody. Look at the firm that you really would like to work with, look at the culture that you really think you should blend in, and then just seek an opportunity. You'll never know when will somebody actually point you and give you a chance. And once you get that, start with that. Do not disappoint. I worked hours and hours until late, until when I was like confident to say, you know what, I can actually do it on my own. I can found my own firm. And so in 2018, that's when I actually started Africorp Attorneys. And I kid you not, it's the same skills and the same tools that I've been using to actually, get to where I am, or Africorp Attorneys to get to where it is in Tanzania. And I'm really, really, like, even now, I'm not resting. So I keep finding ways on how to actually make sure that I don't only thrive, but also the team around me also thrive. Another thing, I think I should encourage you to get connected to clubs. There are clubs, there are organizations that are, lawyer related or business related. So I'm not so sure about Kenya, but I know even in Kenya, even these business clubs really help in sort of like giving you confidence, but also giving you the network that you may need. Just the mere fact of you go meet people and be like, I'm a lawyer, my name is Victoria, I practice law. Then just, develop your pitch as you go. And then later on you realize, or you'll be surprised that you're actually putting yourself in a place where you go into a meeting, for example, a conference, you have two people who know you. So attend these conferences, be it in your, local bar or international or regional. Their scholarships sometimes make use of that. I've been doing that since, back then. And I can tell you today, if I want to say, find a lawyer in Kenya, it's no longer a problem, because I've been engaging into this, East African Law Society, International Bar Association and all that. And that actually gives you an avenue, and it gives you a team of people to work with whenever you need to, but also asking advice as well. Where you are now, use people. You don't have to use the local, like the lawyers in your country. If that is not working, start sourcing others from other countries. And because you're a member of East African Law Society, you can also take advantage of that. I'll give you a very funny example. When I was starting, what I started with, so far as social media is concerned, I created a simple hashtag that I knew identifies me. And so with every post I would make, I would do hashtag the Shia Tony. And I kid you not, that hashtag grew in the sense that sometimes you meet me in court and some people just know me for that, by that. And what is an attorney? An attorney is a person really who practices law. And that actually introduces, me to the market. Even you may feel like it's not impactful, but it is. So start there. And I think somebody also commented that you can actually have your article reviewed by a peer or somebody that you trust, but also technologies, use stuff like Grammarly. This is one item that I think it is there, and you can actually proofread your document. Email, if you like, even when you're applying for jobs, how to construct emails that actually sound very professional. It is there. Make use of that. I understand it may be a bit expensive, but hear this. For example, that platform is probably, I think, $90. You can actually do with your friend or two friends and just pay $30 each, or maybe 20, and access that so that every time you write, you're confident that your document is actually proofread, even without a third party. So these are the tools that we're talking about. We have a lot that is there that can help you, A, build your confidence, two, also, increase your visibility as a lawyer, but three, also sort of like connect you to the right people, the right network that you want, and who can actually assist you to get to where you want to get. So I just wanted to just give you confidence, a little bit of motivation or confidence that you really don't need anyone. And some of us, we are doing it, and we didn't need anybody to network, to sort of like say a word or two. We introduced ourselves, and then, the trust then comes with it. And I think another speaker spoke about that as well, that once you're already there, then what you're presenting, make sure that it's actually what identifies you. So I just wanted to probably shed that a little bit to just give you a bit of confidence. Thank you. Back to you, moderator. Julie, back to you.
Thank you so much, Ms. I don't know if it's on my side, but you're breaking a bit, but thank you so much for the encouragement, Ms. Angelista. We sincerely appreciate that. And I'm seeing Frida's number is asking the app that feeds documents. I think it's called Grammarly. I also use Grammarly. We could type the spelling of Grammarly. You can check it out. So thank you so much, Ms. Angelista. And just a My apologies about that. My internet dropped. My apologies about that. So maybe I could just invite Mr. Faisal to give his parting shot. I don't know if we've already closed the session.
Thank you so much for the honor to share my closing remarks. Now, I want to speak to you young lawyers on the call, and I want to speak to your hearts. Self-pity is the road to self-destruction. Don't involve yourselves into self-pity. Life is a journey. That lawyer you admire closing that Benz, having that dream house, living that life you're seeing, he has been in the tunnels and he has worked his way to where he is. The beauty with lawyering is like brewing wine. It eventually grows and it matures and it is up for drinking. You will get there, but get there in permissible ways. Don't steal people's property. Don't abuse the trust people are putting in you. Don't grab what is not yours. Don't convert what does not belong to you because you want for quick gain. You want to be seen in your city, in your locality. You want to be seen living an extraordinary large life. There are so many small arms out there in the communities. People are dying day in and day out. Lifestyle audit and lifestyle change is very critical if you're to make life better. Reach out for others, reach out for yourself. Be alive to both communicable and non-communicable diseases. The demographies of East Africa are changing, the way of life is improving, and the mortality rates are going low. It will be sad for you to reap your life early into a grave because of failure to adhere to lifestyle changes, while your classmates are becoming attorney generals, judges, they are becoming the next big shots in the legal industry. But because you debated and transacted in your life at the beginning of your career, and we sadly have to send you into an early grave. Always check for both comorbidities. Young lawyers, you're now eating fatty foods, you're prone to diseases, pressure, diabetes, so on. So always go for health checkups, create smaller groups and run with your colleagues, do exercises, engage in physical exercises, but in a way that preserves your sanctity as a human being. Let's embrace ICT. ICT is here to stay and it is changing the terrain in the legal practice. Exercise gratitude. Every day, write about 5 things you're happy about. If you can't make 5 things make you happy in a day, over the weekend, write down a few things that make you happy and also have hope. Most of us have thrived on hope to get where we are, and it is hope that is leading our way to our next destinations. You will be whatever you want to be. Nobody should ever tell you that you can't be what you want to be. You're destined and God has chosen you and God has called you to that destined land, and that's where you're heading. But God wants to see how you conduct yourself and how you use this little fame, this little money he has given you, this little trust he has bestowed in your hands. Are you using it to change communities, or you're using it and suffering to the people that you're supposed to serve? Let's serve beyond self. Once you apply for a job, you must do it. And you must do it to the satisfaction of the ethos and the calling. Many of the things that employers are saying is that you're not dependable, you're not faithful, you're not available, you're not teachable. So let's become young people that have a vision and have a purpose, and young people that are out there to change communities through what we do. Do whatever you're called to do with passion, and give the best shot in every calling and every opportunity, because that opportunity you step on today is the one that will take you to another step. Good evening, East African young lawyers.
Thank you so much for that, Faisal. That was very powerful. I'll give also this opportunity to Angelista to also say her parting shots.
I think mine will be very brief. I wouldn't say young lawyers, I'll say lawyers or young lawyers in this room. Take care of your mental health. Really, take care of your mental health. I know with all these things we've been talking about, comes a lot of pressure to actually get there before time. I kid you not, the way the social media is structured, the way all these technologies are structured, and the way other people are making money, and some of them lawyers like us, will make you feel sometimes that you're moving in a pace that is not yours. So take care of your mental health, but at the same time, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane in the sense that trust the process that you're in, and trust that you are going to get there, you know, at your own pace, but with your own time. The lawyers that you see today, most of them have really had to go through a journey of their own. So don't be fooled. There are a lot of thieves out there who are also lawyers like us. So make sure that they don't put pressure on you, and make sure that you're doing the best that you can. I have this saying that I usually use when I feel like I am down. Even when you're given an assignment that you think is beyond you and you can't deliver, I tell myself, Angelista, give it your best and don't worry. So once you give anything your best, the rest is really history. Take time, learn the trade, look at people who've made it, and look at their journey, and then go slowly, slowly. With time, you're going to be the best that you want to be, but you're also going to make the money that you want to make. You know, make sure as you go about that journey, you don't forget the mental state of yours. And that is the only thing you need, because without which you even run into these problems, you know, blood pressure, all this diabetes and all that stuff. Try to just become grateful, stay in your lane, take time, and trust the process. That's all from me.
Thank you so much, Ms. Angelista. You've spoken to my heart directly. For sure, mental health is something that we need to take care of in our journey to success, and we'll keep on trusting the process. Thank you. Ms. Sian Rapey, your parting shots.
All right, so to the young lawyers and the others who probably don't consider themselves young, believe in yourself. You know, all around the world, you need very high grades to be able to take a degree in law. So if you're a lawyer, you're already brilliant. You already have the capability to be the best lawyer. And the best thing about this career is that it's so wide. There's so much for all of us to do in here, that there's enough space for all of us to thrive and all of us to win. So don't listen to those voices that tell you that you're not so good. You're very good. That's why you're a lawyer. And there's enough space for you, and there's enough space for all of us. And as has been said by the other panelists, keep a work-life balance. Do not just live for your career. Make sure you don't just spend your life sitting and reading. It's good to be a good lawyer. It's good to be an expert, but it's also good to have an all-rounded life. Be active, eat well, have good friends, do other things that make you happy, that revitalize you, and then protect your mind. The mind is so important in our career, such that there's no day you can work as a lawyer if your mind is not up to it. So you have to protect it, and you have to protect it by feeding it the things that it's curious about, by having an all-rounded life so that you're not constantly saturated. Giving it interesting things, good things. You know, the mind is just like a book. What you write on it is ultimately what is going to stick on it. And then after you believe in yourself, constantly build yourself. That's not just your mind, your memory, your image out here. Make sure you're always growing. Don't be at the same place where you were last year. And that's it. Go out there and win.
Thank you so much, Ms. Yan. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Ms. Angelista. Thank you so much, Mr. Faisal. Thank you for your time. It has been very impactful. Personally, as a young lawyer who's still growing in the profession, I've learned so much from all of you. And I believe all of us have learned from this session. And I believe we'll take those nuggets of wisdom so that we apply it, because one quote that I've learned is hard work beats talent at any time. So as much as we could be talented, but you're not putting in the work, or we are not trusting the process or trying to get ahead of ourselves, we'll not be able to be where we are and be happy with where we are going. So let's put in the advice that we've received. Thank you so much, East Africa Law Society. Thank you so much, the Young Lawyers Committee for the East African Law Society. I appreciate all of you. Thank you, our esteemed participants. You know, we could not have had this session without you if you're not listening to us. Thank you so much. And we look forward to having more interactive sessions to build the capacity of young lawyers in East Africa who are the future of the bar in East Africa. Thank you so much. Everyone, have a blessed evening from wherever you are in East Africa. Keep believing in yourself. Know that everyone is very unique and has a gift that they are to give this world. So believe in yourself and go out there. Thank you.